Spoiler alert, season 2 is on the way, so in the end, he obviously didn't kill himself. Just like Jeffrey Epstein. Shut up! I know he's your friend, but I don't care. You had to make your own way here in your own plane, didn't you? Right, but seriously, most films... The TV game with a morning show, a superb drama about the importance of dignity
with dignity and respect
and doing the right thing, made by a company that runs sweatshops in China. Well, you say you're woke, but the companies you work for, I mean, unbelievable. Apple, Amazon, Disney. If ISIS started a streaming service, you'd call your agent, wouldn't you? If you do win an award tonight, don't use it as a platform to make a political speech, right? You're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing about the real world. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg. Come up, accept your little award, thank your agent and your God, and... And he obviously didn't kill himself, just like Jeffrey Epstein.
Yes, Roman Polanski. I'm very sorry that he's in jail.
Goes for Roman Polanski, for the pianist.
On the one hand, the death of Jeffrey Epstein was entirely predictable, and on the other, if a team of Hollywood screenwriters had attempted to script the event, they could hardly have envisaged such drama and intrigue. On July 6th, Jeffrey Epstein had been arrested on sex trafficking charges and jailed in the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City. This facility has housed figures ranging from Ponzi scheme fraudster Bernie Madoff, Mexican drug lord El Chapo, and Gambino crime family bosses like John Gotti. The jail's scandalous history only heightens the mystery surrounding Epstein's death. Several prisoners told Gothamist that they had been physically assaulted by staff. One former correctional officer at the jail admitted to beating an inmate, leaving fractures in his eye socket and cheekbone. In 2016, another former officer raped an inmate in a corridor that had no video surveillance, and just a year ago, one officer was found to have been taking bribes from a federal inmate in his custody in exchange for smuggling contraband into the jail. During El Chapo's time in this jail, his attorneys reported that the drug lord was driven to auditory hallucinations, paranoia, and they began to notice his mental faculties decline. He began repeating himself often and sometimes forgetting what was being discussed. The jail is also infamous for its unsanitary conditions, with sewage spilling onto the floors and, according to inmates, enormous rats crawled on and bit inmates while they slept. One detainee in a Gothamist report says, "Toilet waste and feces were all over the floors of all the cells, common area, and other departments on the floor, and female inmates were the ones who had to clean it up without proper protection. This resulted in inmates getting feces all over their hands, legs, and faces." It was reported that Epstein had not been showering regularly, and this was likely because the hot and cold water in the cell came out of different taps, so inmates couldn't shower without getting frozen or scorched. To relieve himself from these hellish conditions, Epstein hired lawyers throughout the day to take advantage of the private meeting rooms, sometimes for up to 12 hours in a day. People who saw the meetings tell the New York Times that Epstein sat in the rooms for so long that he often appeared bored, sitting in silence with his lawyers. During the meeting times, he would empty out the vending machines of all the snacks and drinks. A few weeks into his imprisonment, Epstein was found unconscious in his cell with injuries around his neck. According to the New York Times, the prison was investigating the incident as a possible suicide attempt, but they hadn't ruled out the possibility that Epstein had been assaulted by other inmates or had staged the incident. If he had been assaulted by other inmates, Epstein's ploy to avoid attention and buy protection by paying off at least 3 inmates had failed. In an interview with The Sun, Spencer Cuvin, the attorney who represented 3 Epstein accusers a decade ago, questions whether it was a suicide attempt. He asks, "How do you choke yourself? It doesn't make any sense." He continues saying, "There may be some powerful people who just don't want him to talk." Following this incident, Jeffrey Epstein was put on suicide watch, but then abruptly removed at the end of July. His last days, reports have claimed, were spent speaking to his lawyers and revising his will. A lawyer who spoke with Epstein after the incident claims that he seemed excited about their working together on the case, saying, "One thing I can say for sure is when I left him, he was very, very upbeat." On August 10, Epstein was found dead after allegedly hanging himself with a sheet. According to CBS News, shouting and shrieking was heard from his cell early in the morning. The level of incompetence that would have had to have existed for Epstein to have committed suicide, as we're told, strains credulity. Why was America's most famous criminal suspect removed from suicide watch a week after an alleged suicide attempt? Veterans of the Bureau of Prisons claims this was routine. However, a forensic psychiatrist who frequently evaluates inmates at this jail tells the New York Times that any case where someone had a proven or suspected serious suicide attempt, that would be unusual to within 2 or 3 weeks take them off suicide watch. An official in the Prison Employees Union goes further, saying that the warden's decision to take Epstein off suicide watch was egregious. The 2 guards who were meant to check on Epstein every 30 minutes fell asleep for around 3 hours and then proceeded to falsify records. The New York Times suggests that they were overworked because of staffing shortages. During the time of his alleged suicide, there were more than 30 staff vacancies. The 2 separate cameras within sight of Epstein's cell apparently malfunctioned at the same time. Reports that the autopsy had revealed a fractured hyoid bone in Epstein's neck was claimed to be proof of foul play, but medical experts claim that hyoid ruptures could occur in suicides. But so bizarre are the circumstances surrounding Epstein's death that even professional skeptics like Michael Shermer are questioning the claim that he committed suicide. Christopher Hitchens once called the term conspiracy theory this stolid, complacent return serve, so apparently grounded in reason and skepticism, but so often naive and one-dimensional. Rarely is this more the case than when a multi-millionaire sexual predator, whose contact list reads like a who's who for politics, media, and the academia, commits suicide as his guards sleep and 2 cameras malfunction. This video can barely scratch the surface of the mystery surrounding Epstein's life and death. Where, for example, has Ghislaine Maxwell gone, the daughter of the publishing tycoon and large-scale fraudster Robert Maxwell, who had links to the KGB, MI6, and Mossad, and who himself died in mysterious circumstances when he drowned while traveling on his yacht, Lady Ghislaine, named after his daughter. Ghislaine Maxwell is alleged to have been a fixer for Epstein, procuring girls for sex and engaging in the acts themselves. She denies this, of course, but while she used to be photographed in public at events like Chelsea Clinton's wedding, she has since disappeared. One photograph emerged of Maxwell at, of all places, In-N-Out, but discrepancies have suggested that the photograph was staged. Where is she? No one knows, or at least no one will say. The New York City chief medical examiner maintains that the mysterious billionaire committed suicide. Epstein's lawyers suspect their client was murdered, as does pathologist Dr. Baden, who was hired by Epstein's brother. Dr. Baden, who's estimated to have conducted over 20,000 autopsies, claims there were findings that are unusual for suicide by hanging and more consistent with homicidal strangulation. In reaction to the type of neck fractures found in Epstein, he says he's not seen in 50 years where that's occurred in a suicidal hanging case. Only a third of Americans think Epstein committed suicide, though for most of the media it seems Epstein was not interesting enough. Project Veritas published a clip which reveals ABC reporter Amy Robach claiming that her network decided not to show an interview she had conducted with one of Epstein's accusers in 2015.
Who's Jeffrey Epstein? No one knows who that is. This is a stupid story.
Of course, lots of people knew who Epstein was. Lots of very rich, very powerful people. It is important not to lose sight of the context of Epstein's death. Alive or dead, murdered or a suicide, his case is full of unanswered questions, as our previous episodes have explored. History must be preempted by demanding exploration of his life and death, from his early days as an obscure financial consultant to this summer's mysterious events. The story of Jeffrey Epstein has yet to be completed.
Dead men tell no tales. Sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, despite the fact that he should have been on 24/7 suicide watch, was found dead in his jail cell of an apparent suicide. Wow, who could have possibly seen this coming? It's not like I wrote about this very thing happening again, and again. But I'm just a conspiracy theorist, so don't listen to me. It's not like under suicide watch, all objects that a prisoner could use to hang themselves are supposed to be removed to prevent this very thing from happening. It's not like Epstein was being filmed by CCTV under bright lights to prevent this very thing from happening. There are cameras everywhere in MCC where Epstein was locked up. It shouldn't be hard to figure out how this happened. Oh, but wait! Alleged camera malfunction last night at MCC where Jeffrey Epstein was locked up. Wow, what a coincidence!
Okay, people, move along. There's nothing to see here.
It's not as if, according to the Metropolitan Correctional Centre's own rules, guards are supposed to keep the prisoner under, quote, direct continuous observation to prevent this very thing from happening. Who was guarding him? Jack Ruby? It's not like Epstein should have been under increased scrutiny given that he already tried to commit suicide just 3 weeks ago. Suicide Watch. Suicide Watch is an intensive monitoring process used to ensure that anyone except Jeffrey Epstein cannot attempt suicide. I was stunned by Epstein's suicide, though probably not as much as Epstein himself. But wait, now we learn, according to NBC, that Epstein wasn't on suicide watch, despite supposedly 3 weeks ago trying to commit suicide.
Move along. There's nothing to see here.
Jeffrey Epstein's suicide ends the criminal case against him because no one else was charged in the indictment. Oh, how very fucking convenient. So all those, quote, powerful men named as being complicit in Epstein's crimes now go completely free. Yesterday, thousands of pages were unsealed from Jeffrey Epstein's past cases. Many wealthy and powerful figures were named as alleged clients of his child sex trafficking ring. The next day, Jeffrey Epstein is found dead.
Move along. There's nothing to see here.
The influential elitist Epstein was set to name in return for a reduced sentence are all now safe from prosecution. It's almost like there's some kind of glaringly obvious giant motive shared by those powerful men to have Epstein silenced forever. But I wouldn't dare suggest that to be the case, given that conspiracy theories are now on a par with terrorism. I wouldn't dare suggest that this goes way higher than Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew. I wouldn't dare suggest that this suicide was a warning to other witnesses to keep their mouths shut. I wouldn't dare suggest that Eyes Wide Shut was a documentary.
Move along, there's nothing to see here.
How's the media gonna spin this? Well, just like literally everything else, they're gonna blame Trump. Despite Trump being one of the few high-profile persons who actually distanced himself from Epstein when the charges were first revealed, despite Trump kicking Epstein out of his Mar-a-Lago club after he caught Epstein hitting on a young girl, despite Epstein's accusers saying Trump didn't have sex with or even flirt with them, and despite opposition research firm Fusion GPS attempting to discover a close connection between Epstein and Trump, but failing. And yes, they're already blaming Russian agents for killing Epstein. Really? I don't recall there being many Russian agents who appeared on the Lolita Express flight log 26 times. Also, maybe you're not the most credible person to be talking about the surprise discovery of dead bodies. But don't worry, because the FBI is investigating. You can be confident in trusting the agency of Peter Strzok and Lisa Page to uncover the truth.
Move along, there's nothing to see here.